Get into the world of celebrities and Bravo Lebs with What the Reality with me, Cache Roberts. I discuss the mess of it all, from reality TV, Hey Housewives, to iconic pop culture moments in the making. We are talking about it all. Don't forget to leave a 5-star rating and a comment wherever you listen to your podcast. Welcome to the pod. I told you guys I would be back. You are listening to What the Reality with me, Cache Roberts, and this is your Friday episode. This is What's the Reality on Porsha Williams and Simon Guobadia. Oh my gosh, I've been saying that name so much. Either way, this is your part 2. If you haven't listened to part 1, make sure you go listen. Part 1 was discussing the timeline of how they got together. Was it shady? Was it sketchy? Did she know Fallon? I give my answer in that. So listen to part 1 if you haven't. Part 2 is really going to be talking about the divorce, what Porsha got out of the divorce, and all of this nastiness that led to the divorce hearings, the back and forth, social media, and essentially how I believe that both parties truly do benefit from something. I may have a slight glisten. I'm literally drinking like hot tea in August, but like, who cares? That's what the real baddies do. Either way, how are you guys doing? Let's get right into it. As you guys know, with what's the reality on What the Reality. We don't do any reality topics. We hop right into the topic at hand. So like I said, this is your part 2. We're going to start off a little recap from part 1. You know, it is, what was I going to say? It is November 2022. They got married. So that's the recap from part 1. November 2022. If you want to see everything that happened before that, listen to part 1. Please, I beg you, because it's some good stuff. So now, November 2022, I'm fast forwarding now to February 2024. After Porsha made her official announcement, you know, of returning to Real Housewives of Atlanta, she said no, Porsha Guobadia is returning. We all remember that iconic Instagram video she posted, and this was literally, I kid you not, in February 2024. And I say I kid you not because a couple days later, she was filing for a divorce. So a lot of stuff happened in February, March 2024, unexpectedly, clearly, or she wouldn't have made that video. So it just seemed like when she posted that video, she wanted everyone to know, look, I'm living this soft life. I want everyone to see. I don't want any accusations. It kind of worked out in her favor because we know she originally left the show because this man is willing to take care of her. And then also she did not want to answer for how did she get that lady's man. She just did not want to answer for that. Therefore, you know, she got this saving grace, this man that is like finally like, you know what, leave your jobs. I will put money in your pocket instead. And for the longest, I just killed 2 flies in my room and now I see a third one. And for the longest, I was one of the people that were like, Porsha, are you dumb? Like, why the heck would you leave like 1.5 million, 2 million on the table per season to get paid $30K? But we understand now why. And I'll be the first one to admit, Porsha was putting the girls on game with this prenup, which we're going to get into. So we get into that announcement. And then, like I said, I kid you not, a couple days after that, alerts, articles, reports are coming in about Simon's legal status in the U.S. and his legal woes and his fraudulent behavior, his alleged fraudulent behavior. I mean, there's nothing really alleged about it because if you look at the documents, this is all stuff that was happening in the 80s, 90s. Like, this is some serious stuff that was going on. And keep in mind, Porsha was a baby when this happened. They have at least like a 15-year age gap, I believe. Do I believe Porsha knew about this? No. But Porsha has made multiple claims after this. Like, you know, they would travel. He would always get pulled to the side. They would have to verify extra stuff. Like, it was kind of like, dude, like, where is your stuff? Like, it would just be coming out of nowhere. She just thought it was weird whenever they would travel, how he would need to be pulled to the side and stuff. And like, a lot of it just seemed a little fishy. So I kid you not, she makes an announcement. what am I seeing leading up to this announcement? They're literally in Miami on water, Lamborghinis, like jet skiing. Like everything seemed fine. She posted an announcement that no, Porsha Williams is not coming back to Atlanta. Porsha Guobadia is coming to Real Housewives of Atlanta. That's what she posted. And then we were like gagged. We're like, oh my gosh, yay, Sweet 16. Oh, how we were disappointed either way. So that was that timeline. So like I said, it just all happened super fast. So I want to get specifically into dates. So I was able to track down February 13th, 2024. Porsha announced on Instagram that she was returning back to Real Housewives of Atlanta. And then she also had signed an overall scripted deal with NBC Universal, which was basically scripted project opportunities. So she was very smart. She wasn't just coming back to Real Housewives of Atlanta. She was coming back with leverage. So if Atlanta didn't work out, Porsha, she's gonna be set with NBCU for a minute, basically. And then around this time, literally, like I said, March 2024, we're getting all of these reports and stuff of kind of like, Simon's a scammer. He is a fraud, and he's been a fraud since the 80s, 90s. A lot of that circling around. So what did Simon do, if you are curious? Like, what does his checkered history past look like? We're going to get into that, and I have specific dates on this. Thanks all to People Magazine, Essence, Reddit, a couple of publications I was really able to like dig deep into and find some very specific timelines, dates of everything. So Simon is being accused of overstaying his visa. That is the real emphasis of everything and why he was detained. And he is just always overstaying his visa. And it seems as though when he overstays his visa, he gets into some trouble. So in 1982, after being issued a visa for only 6 months, he overstayed that visa. That's instance number 1. He then returns to Nigeria in 85. So he overstayed for 3 years, you guys. He overstayed the visa. That was his first time overstaying it. He then married his first wife, Karen English, who is American. And he applied for the adjustment of status in 1985 for his, visa woes, like his legality. However, he was denied this because an ex of his reported him to the Immigration and Naturalization Services, INS, that her and Simon were living together. So basically, this marriage, he was just with this Karen girl just to get a green card or just to get his visa. Like, it wasn't legit. So they basically investigated that, and they were like, oh, snap. You're right. Like, this is not a legit relationship. So he was denied that. So then in 1987, he got into some legal trouble and pled guilty for felony charges for bank fraud and credit card fraud. I know. Crazy. And then in 1988, he applied for a temporary resident status and used a fake ID and failed to disclose his past criminal activity. So at this point, I'm researching. I'm like, now, Simon, you're trying to get a visa again? I have my C cup that you guys see on my cover. He's trying to get a visa again. And I'm just like, at this point, it really don't matter. I guess you could try to file and get a visa X amount of times. Like, it really don't matter. So that's 1988. He then was arrested in 1989 for using an unauthorized vehicle, and in 1990 for fraud, all while his 1988 green card is basically getting passed through. The visa worked. It went through under a fraudulent identity, though, so it wasn't even really him. I think I read somewhere alleged that it was some worker, employee, some farmer. I was reading that somewhere. It wasn't even him, though. He lied on that application. Alleged. Everything's alleged because I'm talking about this law stuff. So then He was forcibly removed from the U.S. in 1992, but was able to come back on the fraudulent visa that they just didn't know was still pending. Like, you just can't make this stuff up. Also, of course, this is all before, like, a lot of security measures are back. Like, you know, like, of course, like 9/11. Clearly, this wouldn't work in this day and age. I think it's something to be said that it worked then, that he was able to apply this amount of times. And then, of course, like, you know, the whole Trump administration, this stuff has caught up with him now. So, he was forcibly removed in 1992, but was able to come back on the fraudulent visa. I was confused. I literally wrote in my notes, I'm so confused. How? So in 1996, like I said, this wouldn't be working in this day and age. So then in 1996, Simon returned to the U.S. on another 6-month visa, but overstayed his welcome again. He returns in 2016, applies for citizenship again, but once again it was denied because his temporary resident status was unlawfully granted. Fast forward to 2022, he's here, he's married to Fallon, and he was denied again, and then he filed a complaint to challenge the decision in 2023, but it was denied in early 2024. So the only reason he had been able to is because he was with Fallon at that point in time. And the thing is with Fallon and Porsha is, I'm pretty sure now that he was like married to them, there wasn't any limits, but notice how they do go back to Nigeria. So it's like at a certain point he does have to go back. He can't just stay in America. So that's what I know from his checkered history after doing all of that digging, that back and forth. That's that. So my question continues is like, how are you able to like return to the U.S. if you are like doing all of this? You have all this fraudulent history. And I said, like, Siri explained scammer. But like I said, a lot of this would not work in this day and age. That's why it kept getting denied as the years kept going up. Like, it kept getting denied because it's like, dude, this isn't even you. Also, you failed to report this criminal activity. And then second of all, what happened to the credit card and bank fraud? Like, so he pled guilty to that, but money talks. And I'm wondering when he started getting his money up, because the fact that he was able to escape those felony charges is literally beyond me. I don't know what happened to that. I was looking for that. He pled guilty, and I think he had to pay like a fine, but I don't think he served any prison time for the bank and credit card fraud. I could be mistaken though. That, like I said, that was just another deep hole in everything that's going on. So now I want to fast forward to Porsha and Simon currently, and like I said, they got married November 2022. And during this time, his citizenship is being rejected. And then, like I said, Porsha announces February 13, 2024, that she is returning to Real Housewives of Atlanta. As we know, they are still together. And I'm saying that information again because it comes up in the divorce hearing and the divorce proceeds that he's like, I didn't know she was returning back to work. When it's like, well, February 13th, 2024, she made an announcement. Therefore, you had to have known that she was returning to work, because the premise of their relationship and the benefit of both of their relationships, you know, he has this hot girl on his arm, and, you know, she is benefiting. Of course, she got this man with money on her arm. So it's mutually beneficial relationship. I do think they both got something out of it. Clearly, Porsha came out on top with this huge victory, but for Simon to act like Porsha kind of played him, was like you were kind of using her as well, like you were well over 10 years older than her. You know what you're doing. You know what kind of rooms it puts you in to be with this former Real Housewives of Atlanta, this hot chick, vice versa. You know, Porsha's being set up nice. She's trading in $1.3 million for literally $30K a month, not to do anything but to be a stay-at-home housewife. So, I mean, it's a mutual beneficial relationship at the end of the day. Like, they both got something out of it, in my opinion. But, so we have February 13th, her announcement that she's coming back, which you had to know, Simon. And then she literally files for divorce in February 2024, shortly after her announcement that Porsha Guobadia is coming back. And this is literally after they celebrated 15 months of marriage. And I remember this because she posted something on Instagram, and it was like a selfie in the mirror, or it was like a mirror pic or something. They were somewhere tropical. Something happened on Valentine's Day. Something happened on that trip, because when she came back, she literally filed for divorce, citing, untruths and financial concealment. And like I said, now remember, the prenup, I talk about this in part 1, was held up for so long because he refused to kind of disclose his finances. And so that was kind of like the first red flag, in my opinion, for Porsha. I think that's something that would kind of signal off and be like, something's off right now. Why are you taking this long to kind of like respond or whatever? So the prenup has always been drawn out. Like, it's just constantly being drawn out. But now, and I feel like I'm going to have to fix my lighting. Give me one moment. Okay, I'm back. I had to add some more lighting as the sun's setting. I love my natural light, but if it's not serving me any purpose, we got to bring out the ring light. So back to the Porsha and Simon of it all. So, yes, so I was just basically saying how, like, the prenup did take longer than expected and I'm assuming that's what Porsha thought. So the fact that she was filing for divorce on the grounds of untruths, which we're all associating with, of course, his checkered history coming out. She didn't know anything about that, and I genuinely do believe that. I don't think she knew he was, like, scamming like that, like bank and credit card fraud, overstaying the visa. I don't think she knew all of that to the extent. But I am curious if, like, did you really think, like, the money was legit? I mean, it's clearly legit because they say he's worth $300 million, which I also want to point out, like, in my part 1, I said 30 million because that was the initial research. And then, of course, when we get to the divorce proceedings, we find out it's actually 300 million. He's worth a lot of money. And this is a CEO of what, like, petroleum. Like, it's crazy to me. And then it's also, he's like an entrepreneur as well. So that's why she filed for divorce. But we were all like, oh, she filing for divorce because these documents coming out, and she pretended she didn't know. But I'm just like, I don't know if she knew. I can't be the judge and jury on that. I really can't. I do think it's a possibility she did not know. I just do. So then I want to talk about, like, what led to this divorce, because I'm going to keep saying it. February 13th, she had the announcement. February 14th, Valentine's Day. And this is what leads me to, like, the People magazine interview, which I'm so glad I waited to do this specific case study, this specific topic, because I wouldn't have gotten all of this stuff, like, if I even chose to do this, like, earlier watching Atlanta Housewives. Like, it just wouldn't have hit the same. So this is all from People magazine. So she's saying so we're going to talk about this vacation that happened February 14th. So during their vacation for Valentine's Day, there was some paperwork that needed to be handled. And I guess this is all quoted from Porsha. She said she wanted to bring in some attorneys to represent herself, and that was frowned upon. She says, and it just really wasn't what he said. It was a look. She said it was a look similar, and I'm like quoting her, not quoting her. I'm kind of like all over the place. So essentially she said it was more so like a look he gave her, and it was similar to a look that Cordell had given her. But yes, she said it was similar to a look that Cordell had given her, and that was kind of her, like, signal, like, I need to get out of this. So a lot of people have speculated something intense happened on this trip. This is what she told People magazine. She said, I could tell that he was just pretty much checked out of the relationship at that point. We don't know what paperwork was needed to be taken care of. It wasn't taken care of. She had an issue with it, and that's that. So then she filed for divorce 8 days later. So that was February 21st. And that's why I kept exclaiming and emphasizing this February 13th date, because I'm like, something happened on Valentine's Day. I won't forget she posted that picture on Valentine's Day. Like, everything was la la and dandy. Like, oh my gosh, like vacation with bae. That was on Valentine's Day. They were somewhere. Something happened on that trip. And then your February 21st, 8 days after your initial announcement, returning back to the show, you're filing for divorce. Something else happened. I mean, she said it was paperwork and a look he gave her. I do think that could be true. I do think something else could have happened. But like I said, I'm not speculating here. I'm just reading the facts, and this is all from People magazine. So she alleges there was no cheating that went on, but she did file out of a necessity, not because she wanted to. So something, like I said, very much shifted and changed on that trip. And then luckily she did have a prenup. As we know with Cordell, they did not have a prenup in place. And Porsha was screwed out of that relationship. She woke up one day and found out through the press that this man was divorcing her. He literally kicked her out the house like this was Medea's A Diary of a Mad Black Woman. Like, you can't make this stuff up. That was crazy, but that was the most vulnerable and raw we had seen Porsha. So Porsha knew if she was going to be getting into this relationship with this powerful man, again, she only dates powerful people with money, let's be real. If I'm going to be in this situation again, I'm going to make sure I'm suited and booted up. Thankfully, the prenup ended up working in her defense, but I do want to talk about what was exactly in that prenup and what worked in her defense. So, let's talk about what she's gotten out of the whole situation. Let's get into some more timelines. So the irony of the February 2024 posting and just her filing for divorce is just like a lot was going on that month. Like, clearly a lot was going on. And then if you guys remember in my part 1, please go listen. In February 2022, he was divorcing Fallon. Valentine's Day, they put that on hold. And then March, he ended up filing again. Or I'm thinking, yeah, it was like after February. Like, he ended up filing again. Like, he filed for divorce from Fallon in January 2022. Or not 2020. Yeah, 2022. And then they put that on hold. Or it was like 2021. I'm mixing up dates. Either way, something about February's and Simon don't go together. And then Valentine's Day, something happens around Valentine's Day. And then he resumed that. I think it was 2021 because they got married November 2022. Yes. So yeah, that, I just think that was so ironic that now they're having marriage problems in February 2024. It just seems like a cursed month for him and whoever he's with. So yes, and I also thought it was ironic because we get this Instagram post from Simon in February about him celebrating 42 years living in the U.S., and I don't know if this is before or after the reports are surfacing that he's been here illegally, but it's just so ironic because it's like, we all know you haven't been here legally for 42 years, or you've just been coming into a lot of trouble. Like, it was a very weird post to make given his fraudulent history. Like, it was just wild to make. And I think he was on a golf cart. And then, of course, Porsha filing for divorce in February. So February 2024 is just something crazy to me. So after the news that she was filing, Simon went to social media with an Instagram story. He was like, "Well, stop loving my wife when divorce is final." And this is when we kind of see social media take a play at it. And they get into some stuff on social media. So we get that. May 2024, we know that filming for Real Housewives of Atlanta is starting. And this is where we get reports that Porsha cannot film at her house, which is what we see play out in the season, because we know that Simon apparently rushed to the judge to get a court order block for her to film. And I guess the court never really responded. So her filming in her home, which was essentially her livelihood, her moneymaker, really it was just interesting to see how she did it. I mean, she filmed at her mom's. We eventually did see a scene in the house, but she was trying to fight the court on that. They didn't get back to her. And then they granted her, she can film in November. And that's why we get that pickup scene of her filming finally. And I think it was also just like, stick it to the man. Like, that's what you get. Like, I still was able to film. Whatever. So yes, though Porsha was able to live at the home, this is a $7 million home, she was not able to film there because the court order, and that just held up a lot of stuff. And Simon just was being petty and spiteful. Like, just a couple weeks ago, you're saying, "We'll stop loving my wife when divorce is final." Now you're rushing to a judge to be like, she can't film in our house, our marital home. Which I'm hearing was a lot more stuff going on. And Portia's been open as I think the divorce has become closer, like how she saw like women on the camera or whatever. Like, she's been very open about that. So the judge never ruled, like I said, on the filming rights at that time, but did rule that Porsha could continue living there. So that's why we never saw it. And then the judge eventually granted in November for her to film there. And then that's where we get that final scene. November 2024, Simon has also filed another lawsuit. This time it is a defamation lawsuit regarding ED. If you guys don't know, it's erectile dysfunction. Lord, I am too young to be knowing about this. This is after Porsha took to her Instagram story posting literally in quotes ED. So he's also being petty because she posted this in May. And of course, May is when filming starts. And that's probably when she got alerted, hey, you can't film in your house. So she's being petty. She went to her Instagram story posting about some ED. And then she posted what that meant, erectile dysfunction. And it had the legit definition of it. So come November, when she is granted to film in the house, this lawsuit comes out of nowhere, TMZ reports, and it is Simon alleging a defamation lawsuit because he's saying he has suffered from public ridicule and the claims were outrageous and quote unquote extreme regarding his ED. So he's saying he was basically outcasted, all of that stuff, and she basically ruined his bag when he was trying to bag another woman, is what I got from that. He was mad and bitter about that. So then, like I said, he was just being bitter about it because it comes months after, because she literally posted this in May for Mental Health Awareness Month. And I'm just like, you just can't make this stuff up. They end up doing a lot of social media back and forth throughout the course of this divorce. It gets a little nasty. We got a post here, post there. They are just doing too much together. But Simon lives on the internet. He eats it up. And he would have been the perfect house husband. Him and Peter or Patricia would have gotten along very well, because he just seemed like he really wanted to be on camera like Ralph. But I digress. So January 2025, the Real Housewives of Atlanta trailer for Sweet 16 drops. And man, it is crazy talking about knowing that Real Housewives of Atlanta is officially off. It's so crazy now that I've watched it completely, and you guys have, hopefully, too. So Simon fires off at Bravo, actually, for including scenes of Porsha mentioning his, fraud and scamming. And I even think they edited a lot of it out. Like, she never really said, like, scamming and fraud. She just said, like, he was just lying about a lot of stuff, and she didn't know he was lying about all of this stuff. So I don't even think she used the words fraud and scamming, but he kind of threw himself under the bus with trying to start something with Bravo and being like, well, she's literally making up lies and disparaging my character, all of this stuff. So he claims she was given an quote-unquote unrestricted right to film and produce television, film, and social media in their shared home. But as we know, she wasn't doing any of that. Or was she? And I can't remember. Did she do it and those scenes were cut? I'm not sure. She didn't do it. So, however, I'm just saying she was not filming. So I don't know what he was talking about. So the entire season, I have this freaking fly. The entire season, she didn't film in that house until that pickup scene. And we didn't even see that or maybe, I can't remember what was in the trailer, y'all. That was like 7-8 months ago. Like, really? I can't remember. But that's what he was upset with Bravo for. Come to February 2025, Simon is detained by ICE. And so he is very silent on social media. And obviously this is all from the Trump administration. It didn't take long for Simon to be detained by ICE because of his fraudulent history. We got the alleged Grand Theft Auto. We have the alleged bank and credit card fraud. We have all of that that's going on, and then him overstaying his visas more than once. So it's caught up to him. He's being detained all while going through this very public divorce. So that was February 2025. And then we have March 9th, 2025. And I have this as the Real Housewives of Atlanta premieres. And Porsha is first on Real Housewives of Atlanta Watch What Happens Live that night. And this is where Andy asks about like the status about her and Simon's divorce. And she mentions how she should be divorced now, but because he was like detained by ICE, like it's now being pushed back. So I vividly remember that Watch What Happens Live. And then we have April 30th, 2025, Porsha and Simon's divorce hearings begin. And I think it wasn't supposed to be drawn out, but because Simon failed to appear in person as the judge wanted, and ruled, it was pushed back. So Simon's lawyer requested a delay because, quote unquote, calling the motion to enforce the prenup is a substantive motion that requires findings of fact by this court. So the court granted the continuance, rescheduling the hearing. So they already had a prenup. These hearings are just to see, like, is the prenup going to be granted? Is this going to be in effect, essentially? So then the court granted like this to be rescheduled in here for the hearing because, like I said, ICE has like their own different set of rules, which I'll get into a little bit because I found this amazing post on Reddit I was like, who's in here? I found this amazing post on Reddit from attorney Simone on YouTube, and someone's like recapping everything she's saying, because she went to the divorce proceedings and the hearings, so she was able to really talk about that, and I'll get into how ICE works. But essentially the judge is like, you need to be here. He's like, hey, I can't even get here, can we do a Zoom? The judge really wanted them to be in person, but eventually it worked out. He was able to appear on Zoom. So then we have it was rescheduled to June 11, 2025. And that's when they officially got divorced. But let's talk about everything that Porsha did end up getting in her huge win on June 11th, 2025. So after the divorce was continually being pushed back due to Simon's detention, and now we finally have some like big movements on this official hearing day. This is from Brianna Hayoga. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. This is on Reddit. This is when I say I'm going to get into the ice of it all. And this is recapping attorney Simone on YouTube, who was there. So they were supposed to have their final hearing, like I said, on April 30th, but of course he was not there. So Porsha had filed a motion for the court to enforce the prenup. And this is what this is all about. Simon filed a motion against that. And this is why. Simon allegedly, but also before even why he did that, Simon apparently is having very little contact with his own lawyer, which is another reason why they're trying to push it back, because like I said, ICE has their own separate rules. They don't abide by the federal or the state. So he's getting very little contact with his lawyer to really, like, you know, have meetings and stuff. That's stuff you do before a divorce hearing or divorce proceedings and stuff. He didn't really have the opportunity to do that, and that's why, like I said, he's trying to push it back so much. So Simon's reasoning why the court should not uphold the prenup: he did not want to have to pay Porsha, especially because she was working again. He just felt like he was getting scammed. But the reasonings why he felt like it shouldn't be upheld is because he alleged that Porsha is a liar. And this is directly from Reddit. I'm going to read this quote. It says, he says that she's fraudulently convinced him to sign the prenup and told him she was going to quit all her jobs and be a stay-at-home housewife. She did quit Real Housewives of Atlanta and Dish Nation, and the prenup stated that she would get a large sum of money of a particular amount. Simon sold 2 of his homes to pay for the $7 million home they shared together. He put $2.4 million down on the home. They began discussing the prenup afterwards in December 2021. And Simon was given Porsha a 5-figure allowance since she quit 2 of her main sources of income. So the prenup was in discussion for over a year, got signed in November 2022, which is when they got married. Also, the prenup gives Porsha 50% equity of the $7 million home. The prenup also states if they separated, Simon would have to leave the home. How did Porsha get this prenup? How did she get this man to sign this? Because Porsha needs to be having some classes, because that is crazy to me. But honestly, when you think about it, it is a fair trade-off. If I'm quitting my 2 main sources of income, Real Housewives of Atlanta, which I said she was at least making 1.5 to 2 million per season at the height of hers, and I'm sure when they were going to ask her back because of the Fallon and Simon of it all, she decided to put that on hold, left the show for 3 seasons. So during this time, Simon is giving her 5 figures, I guess it is 5 figures. He was giving her $30K a month. And I guess it translates because she did walk away with a lot more money. And that's what I want to circle around at the end of this episode, is because I thought Porsha was the biggest dummy. I'm like, Porsha, you're not smart. I made a TikTok about it. People are like, yeah, she isn't. Like, why are you just figuring this out? But now I'm like, no, it's clicking to me now. She's very smart because she got this man to sign this prenup. And so, yes, she lost out on some millions a couple of seasons, but now we're going to get into it. She's getting paid so much more in the long run, in my opinion. So that was the first thing he's alleging. This is why the prenup should not be enforced. The second reason was because the confidentiality provision, and basically saying that Porsha breached this clause by doing interviews discussing Simon. So basically, in this clause, they weren't supposed to be going to social media, but attorney Simone, that probably was loud, this is getting very intense, but attorney Simone is basically saying, well, Simon, you were doing the same thing, so you could argue the same for both of them. You both were going to social media, both were doing interviews, both giving statements, so you can't really say this prenup can't be upheld because she broke that clause or something. It just would make no sense. Like, it was just laughable at that point. And then he listed these interviews apparently in the divorce proceedings where she did all of this, and then he explains this is why he didn't want her filming in the home. Says Porsha then tricked him by signing the prenup, filing for divorce, and going to the media. So I'm assuming he thought if she did file for divorce, she shouldn't have went to the media. But my thing is like, there's literal jobs at like TMZ and, these other publications to just like literally, today's your day, check who's filed for divorce. I mean, that's how we found out Denise Richards and Aaron Pipers literally were divorcing on 4th of July, or they officially separated 4th of July. He filed for divorce July 7th. Some stuff I'm sure they get notifications is like you're ever like, you know what I mean, or you get inside tips, but it's like there's certain people as their job to research the database for like famous people, like housewives, like, ooh, when was this reported, you know what I mean? And that's why sometimes we get stuff delayed, because it's like there's someone on the clock. This was gonna get picked up regardless if she went to the media or not. She didn't even go to the media initially, but it got picked up, and then she's gonna give her statement, and there it is. That's all it is. So he just had no leg to stand on when it came to his second reason. And then his third reason was Portia's income had increased, and it had increased from 8 to 9 million, while Simon is worth 300 million. 300 million. Like I said, I reported in my part 1, I thought he was only worth 30 million. That man was worth 300 million, and he's over here crying about some 8-9 million. I mean, I guess to stay rich, you got to stay selfish, and you got to stay penny pinching, whatever that's called. I'm word blanking right now. It's too much going on. So he says he believes he shouldn't have to pay in the prenup because Portia's income increased and she should have enough money. So that was his reasoning why the prenup should just be tossed out. Not knowing Porsha would return to work. She never returned. Oh my gosh, my lights. She never returned to Dish Nation, to my knowledge. She did return to Atlanta, and my thing is like, that's something else you can't use against her because it wasn't valid. You knew she was coming when she made that initial announcement, February 13th, 2024. She was like, Porsha Williams coming back to Real Housewives of Atlanta? No. But Porsha Guobadia is coming back to Real Housewives of Atlanta. Like, you knew when she was making that announcement because you guys were still together, and then you had your Valentine's Day trip, and whatever happened. But I also found that his third reasoning wasn't valid, and this is my own input on the notes because yes, I took this from Reddit and attorney Simone, but I'm like, even his third reasoning isn't valid if her income increased 8 to 9 million. So I'm assuming her income initially before she was with him was 3 to 4 million, and now it's like went up there. I mean, that's an amazing increase. But when you look at somebody with 300 million complaining about somebody with 8-9 million, and it's like, you signed this prenup. We don't know why you signed the prenup. We don't know how you signed the prenup. We don't understand what happened. Maybe she was doing some pillow talk, in the words of Porsha, y'all was flip-flopping in that bed. But you either way signed the prenup. And you even talk about this prenup being brought up. Y'all brought this prenup up in 2021 when you were engaged, got married November 2022. And that's why I said in my part 1, you guys listen to my part 1. It all comes back. I literally said the prenup is what held up the wedding. They were going back and forth, and he was not disclosing his finances. So this was drawn out, but you knew what you were doing. He knew what he was doing. Either way, he's saying, if I would have known she was going back to work, I wouldn't have signed the prenup. My thing is, you knew she was going back to work because she made that video February 13th, 2024. So we can all get off on technicalities and legalities or whatever. Like, everything is very technical. You knew she was returning, and you were excited to be on Real Housewives of Atlanta and to be on the platform again because Simon's very thirsty. He's very thirsty, and he was looking forward to being on Real Housewives of Atlanta. End the story. So however, the judge ruled that this prenup will go into effect, and Porsha won. Porsha had a huge victorious day on June 11th, 2025. So much, it has made me change my opinion. And it has made me go, you know what? Porsha just put all the girls on game, and I hope she continues doing it. So what did Porsha get? You guys remember the infamous articles when they leaked her, it wasn't leaked, but it was just like, oh my gosh, 8-9 million. He's worth 300 million. So you can imagine what she got and what she deserves. So she got $40K a month. So initially she was getting paid $30K a month for him without a job. So now she can, of course, be on Real Housewives of Atlanta. In addition to that, she's getting $40K in alimony for 15 months. Porsha, stack that wisely. $40K for 15 months. So that's a little, of course, over the year. People are like, why is it 15 months? It's 15 months because that's how long they were married. Clock it. I'm sure if it was longer, if she would have made it to that 16th month, it would have been 16 months. I'm sure if she made it to 24 months, 2 years, it would have been 24 months. So this is $40K for her not having a job, especially because they were married for 15 months, especially because I think it should have been longer because she literally left Atlanta as soon as they were engaged. You know what I mean? So technically, I don't know. I just feel like beggars can't be choosers. I mean, she already got a lot. But I'm just saying, if she really wanted to, I feel like she could have gotten a little more. Or I think the 15 months is the longevity of their full relationship. I think they were married for like 11 months. I think they were together for like 15 or something. I don't know. I gotta see. But I'm gonna do 40K times 15. So she would be getting 600K. Nothing on a season she's getting paid for to film like 3 to 4 months. But that's still extra in her pocket. 600,000. And when you look at that with someone with 300 million, why are you complaining? She also... all her legal fees are being paid by Simon, as they should be. The Rolls Royce that was gifted to her when it was like a double syllable. I feel like I'm like, ugh, rolling my tongue. The Rolls Royce that was gifted to her, she was able to maintain and keep. And now, this is the interesting one. She has until 2027 to decide if she wants to remain in the marital home or to stay in that marital home. And then she gets to decide what she wants to do, because remember, she has 50% equity in that home. So in 2027, I don't know if they're not going to talk until then. And then they're going to have to be like, all right, you do this, you do that. But she walked out pretty unscathed. The prenup was upheld in court, as it should be. That's the point of prenups, especially when you are a pretty girl with money seeking a partner with more money or as much money as you. That is when I do believe in prenups. Now, y'all both ain't got nothing, but you're working towards something. I do think the day Kyle Richards and Mauricio Umansky, if they ever do divorce, which I just feel like there's too much money tied up, I think that prenup, they don't have a prenup. I think that divorce would be very interesting, because they built, the agency they built it together. He may be the face of it, but she helped him build it, and it was her connections and stuff. I think that divorce would be very messy because they don't have a prenup. But this is why you do get the prenups, because you can end up in a situation like this. Porsha said she wanted no parts of this fraudulent behavior. I don't blame her. And like I said, in conclusion, Porsha's very smart, because she walked away with so much more, and then she still has her job and her deal at NBC Universal. So when you look at it, my opinion has changed. I will be the first one to admit it. I take back my TikTok. Well, not all of my TikTok, but I do take it back. I'm like, you know what? Porsha was actually very smart about this. She got a chance to live the soft life for a little bit. Now she got to go back to working. And you know what? We'll see how next season of Real Housewives of Atlanta is for her. But I think, if anything, she was very smart. She played her cards right. And it'll be very interesting to see her talk about this next season, because she'll be able to film in that home. And I do wonder if next season we're going to see her kind of like shopping for new homes, because it will be time to come, like, kind of get on up out of that home in 2027. I mean, it's going to fly by. But that was your part 2 of What's the Reality on What the Reality. Porsha Williams and Simon Guobadia. I want to start taking topics from you guys. I still have plenty, and I'm in the friendship realm. The Housewives, I've done Bethany Frankel and Carol Radziwill. I've done Candy Burris, Phaedra Parks. I've done the Paige DeSorbo and Craig Conover relationship. I've done Shannon Bedore and Joelle Kim Booster, that epic fallout. That was a quick little hit I wanted to do, which honestly is seeming more true and true, because have you guys been seeing the recent stuff about Shannon? Like, she's not a good person to work with. She treats production like crap. And then I've just done the Porsha Williams and Simon Guobadia. I don't know if I'm going to do another friendship or a relationship next, but I do want to take topics, so make sure you comment on Spotify under part 1, part 2, what other topics you want to see me do a deep dive on. Make sure you guys are giving me 5-star ratings wherever you listen to your podcast. On Apple, hit the 5 stars. It has been 2-3, I think it's been like officially like 2 months of me doing this, 2 or 3 months of me doing this. Still rarely new, but I do want to get those stars up, and I do want you guys to talk and engage. And definitely check me out on YouTube. I post my videos on YouTube. Sometimes they are out of sync. I'm using a platform right now that I'm trying to get the hang of. I'm back on this platform because I was like telling them, there's a serious lip sync problem, and hopefully it is fixed. Also feel like my laptop is just super, I've had my laptop since I was a freshman in college in 2016, so I will be getting a new laptop soon as well, and quality should be way better. So if you don't want to look at that and you just prefer to put your AirPods in, make sure you tune in wherever you listen to your podcast. But yes, let me know what other topics you guys want to see. I hope you enjoy What's the Reality on Porsha and Simon's relationship. That was all the tea. I am about to go to bed. Well, actually I have packing to do. I have a trip coming up in literally 2 days. Not even, because my flight is so freaking early. So I am getting out of here. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend, and I will see you soon. I won't be on next week for Toxic, but it's Tuesday, or I'm taking a week off the following. My birthday's this weekend. I will be off the next week, but I will see you again for Toxic, but it is Tuesday, and it'll be August. I will see you guys later. Bye. Period. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast, What the Reality with me, Cashay Roberts. Don't forget to leave a 5-star rating and a comment wherever you listen to your podcast. Let me know what I should be doing. Let me know how I'm doing. All compliments are welcome. Until the next time.